Welcome back. I am so glad that you're here. I am your host, Marica L. Floyd. I am your therapist, your coach, and guide. So sit back as we explore the areas of grief that no one is talking about on this very special episode of What's Grief Got to Do with It. This month, I wanted to honor the weight of May. I was very intentional, guys, with this episode. I know that May is the month where we honor mothers, and some of you may be without your mother this Mother's Day. Some of you weren't raised by your mother, so you may be without that parental figure. Some of you may have a difficult time honoring a mother who didn't raise you, a mother who may be alive and well. Some of you are honoring your spouse and partner who was the mother of your children, and they are no longer here. No matter what your circumstance may be, I want you to know that I see you. And this episode 3, the series for the month of May, is for you. I wanted to not only honor Mother's Day, I wanted to also honor Mental Health Awareness Month. It's so important that we have people in our corner who can support us. It's so important that we have people in our corner who can validate our spaces and just hold space for us. It's not about saying the right thing or doing the right thing. Sometimes the best thing we can do to hold space for someone is just to be present. So with that being said, I have 2 very special guests for this episode series. First, we have Consuello Hodges. We call him Coach C. Coach C is a mentor. He is a coach. He is an author. He is a pastor. And he's going to be sitting down with us to share his story and talk to that 13-year-old version of himself who didn't have permission or the space to grieve his mother. I'm so excited for you all to hear my conversation with Coach C. He has a message for the grieving man. He has a message for the parent raising a child who is grieving. He has a message for those who are trying to support and hold space for someone who is grieving. Sit back, get your tissues, get your notebook, get your pen, come ready and prepared for this conversation. If you don't walk away with a lesson from this conversation, you simply were not listening. I'm glad that you're here. It's time to do some soul work. Welcome to this special Mother's Day Mental Health Month episode of What's Grief Got to Do with It. I have a very special guest here with me today, and I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. He does so much work in the world. When you read his bio and everything that comes under his list of accomplishments, it's long, and I want to give him the space so he can tell the story and his work accurately. I also want to tell you all how we met. So welcome Consuello Hodges, who we lovingly call Coach C. Coach C, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yes, it's Consuello.
Consuello.
Yes,
Okay.
I tell people you can pronounce it if you can spell it with the S-W-A-Y. That's not how it's spelled, but that's how you pronounce it. Consuello.
Consuello. Thank you for that, because I'm a firm believer in getting someone's name accurate. I want to start with telling the people how we met, because God is intentional. So do you want to start with your version or mine?
Ladies first. If my grandmother was alive and she would see this podcast, she would be upset with me if I did not let the ladies go first, because that's how she raised me. So I defer to you.
All right. Well, grandmother raised you well. So I'll start. I met Coach C at a single and married conference a few weekends back. Every speaker there had a dynamic message, and there was something about Coach C's message. I had so many notes leaving this conference. And you talked to us about knowing who we are and not taking our past hurt into our relationships. But one thing that stood out for me, when you were telling your story, you talked about your great-grandmother outliving your grandmother and your mother. And you made mention that your mother passed away when you were 13. And you instantly caught my attention. You already had my attention, but I was really laser focused on you then, because I'm looking at you. Here's this man standing in front of us coaching us, directing us, guiding us. And I said, he has a story to tell. And it made me very curious about what that story was. And that's my version of it. I know I'm leaving so many details out, but now is your turn.
No, I really appreciate that, Marika. First of all, I appreciate the opportunity of you taking the time out of your busy schedule and thinking enough about me and my story and seeing the value in it to be able to do this podcast so we can help other people who maybe be able to relate to my story and get some perspective in what they're dealing with. And one of them, like you said, just one of the most powerful people in my story was my great grandmother, Bessie Mae Smith.
Okay.
And what makes her presence even more significant is that she outlived my mother and she outlived my grandmother. And I want you to really think about that, because the very people who were supposed to be pillars in my life, they were gone.
Right.
And yet God left me with her, right? Not by accident, not by choice, but by design, because in the middle of all that pain, God made sure I still had a witness. So she became more than just family to me, right? She became my anchor, she became my covering, and she became my example. She was literally my hero, not because she lived a perfect life, but because how she carried life. There was this strength in her that just didn't need to announce itself. This small old lady that had this strength about herself, her presence. She had a command presence. Like when she walked in the room, you know, Bessie Smith is in the room. And I always admired her. Now, how did that relate to us and what was God doing behind the scenes? Well, my side of the story was I was up there again doing what I believe God wants me to do in the earth, and just share my story to people and invite them into that experience so that they can have courage and boldness to look inside their own story and be able to relate to that and kind of unpack that. So that was kind of a setting a stage. And you help facilitate that, because most people in those settings, they're more focused on the content that they don't think about questions. And then I knew something was special about you, because when your hand went up, then you started to help me teach the class. That's the sign of a great leader and a great instructor, because one, they know what I'm called to do. And so you help pull out some of the details of that story just through your questioning. So your expertise, you read the room, and then you became a part of the mission. You didn't just sit back and become a recipient, but you helped me teach that class. So I knew something was special then. And I said, I got to link up with her. I got to know more about her. And then you start telling us about your background and the grief. And I was like, oh my God, I know this is God. And I automatically started thinking about how can I utilize her to help people in our clubhouse rooms. So that's kind of my story. I'm sticking to it.
Well, you know what? Thank you for that. I appreciate that so much, because it just kind of goes back to a lot of the information that I feel like I left out. I used to be the type who would sit back and not ask the questions. And I used to be really quiet and shy. And as I was going along with this mission, when God showed me what my purpose was, he told me very clearly, I did not give you this assignment for you to do it from the back. You have to speak up. And so I hope this part of my story and message helps someone who is trying to find their way along and thinking their voice doesn't matter, and thinking, well, if I ask that question, it might sound stupid. No, I didn't even know your perspective of that story of how we met. There were so many nuggets that you dropped for us that day. And I just knew, hey, you know what? These people in this room, they're speaking my language. And I remember when you and I were talking before, I told you I haven't been in a room with so many people at the same time who speak my language, the language that we speak to help other people along their grief and life journey. There are so many people who are struggling. And when you came with a strength-based perspective, talking about our mindset, I was blown away. You said something about your great grandmother being your witness. Even there, that word witness, that's a part of the language, because grief has to be witnessed. So here you are, you have your great grandmother in your life, and she's your witness after you already lost your mother and your grandmother. And when we can witness, acknowledge, and validate someone's story and someone's pain, I don't think people are aware of how healing that is. Just that validation alone. I had a consultation this morning with a gentleman in his 80s, and I was just telling my story and listening to his story. And even in the consultation, he said, ma'am, I feel like you've seen my whole life story through and through.
Wow.
He needed to be witnessed.
Yes.
He needed to be witnessed.
I love that.
Yeah. So tell me, let's go back to the 13-year-old you, Coach C, if we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But before I go there, you said something I kind of want to circle back. I think
Sure.
it needs to be brought out.
Sure.
You talked about how there's a language to this,
Yes.
right? And grief doesn't automatically teach you a language, right? But it forces you into one that you never chose to learn. And if you stay present in it, and this is what I'm learning, right? If you stay present in it and you don't run from it, you begin to understand that language, right? Because it introduces you to a language that most people don't even speak fluently, the language of silence. So have you ever heard of that? The language of silence, the language of empathy, and the language of presence over performance. You know, in my experience, grief might have tried to fix everything. You know, you had the answers, you had the solutions, you had the response ready, but grief teaches you something totally different. Grief teaches you that sometimes people don't need your words. They need your witness. And you learn how to sit with someone and not rush them. I had to learn how to hear what's not being said in rooms. I had to learn how to recognize pain behind the behavior. And that's a whole different language in itself. And so grief, a lot of people don't understand it because they simply don't speak the language. But grief also teaches you the language of God in a deeper way. Because when everything feels familiar to you, like my mother, that was everything that I've ever known, it was stripped away. So you start listening differently after that. Not for the noise, though, not for the quick answers, but for the presence of God. Start recognizing God in the stillness. You start trusting him without explanation. You start seeing him in ways you couldn't before. And here's the truth that most people miss. If you don't learn the language of your grief, you'll misinterpret your own life.
Ooh. All right. I'm not in my office today. I need my bell. Ding, dingity, ding. That's it right there. And so many people are not familiar with their own language. Not only can they not speak it, they run from it. I meet so many clients who come to me after they hit rock bottom because they've been running from the language of grief for so long.
No, absolutely.
But they've been hurt by people who don't speak the language.
Yes, yes. So going back to that 13-year-old kid, right? You know, I didn't have the words, Marica, if we just be honest, I didn't have the words for what I was feeling.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there saying, man, I'm grieving. I wasn't processing the loss in a healthy, structured way. Nobody ever told me that's a thing. Right? So I was just living with something heavy that I couldn't explain. And my mother was gone. She is not coming back. She was gone.
Yeah.
Well, and everything in me was trying to figure out how to keep going. Like that didn't change everything, but it did. You know, and so that 13-year-old kid had to learn a new language overnight. You know, and I really want people, if you're listening, to sit with that. That's what loss does to a person. It changes. Now this 13-year-old kid had to learn a new language overnight, not because he wanted to, because life forced him to.
Yeah.
And so I learned the language of silence. And there were some things I felt that I couldn't say. So I just carried it. Like, what are you supposed to do with it? I can't speak about it, so I had to carry it. And so now I just learned the language of observation. I just started reading the rooms and reading people and paying attention to energy. And then I learned the language of strength, at least what I thought was strength. You know, just keep it moving. Don't break down. Hold it together. But here's the truth. That wasn't full strength. That was survival.
Oh, yes.
And at 13, I didn't know how to grieve. So I learned how to function. That means I went on with life. I just showed up where I was supposed to show up. I did what I had to do. But deep down inside, Marica, there were a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Why did this happen to me? Where was God in this? Why do I feel like this? And I can't even explain it. And because I didn't have the language yet, those questions didn't come out as conversations. They came out in my behavior.
There you go. Yes.
And so that showed up in how I was responding to people. I remember the first day, Marica, when I went back to school, I definitely wasn't ready.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and one of the things I could tell you, I didn't want nobody's pity. So the first young person that came up to me and say, "Hey man, I'm sorry about what happened to your mother," that's when that voice showed up. Your mother gonna die one day. Don't feel sorry for me. Your mother gonna die one day too. And all of that kid was trying to do was comfort me.
Yeah.
But sometimes that's how the language comes out when you don't know the language. It comes out as a behavior.
Yeah.
And that was how I processed relationships from that point on. That's how I protected myself.
Mm.
But here's what I know now that I didn't know then is that
Okay.
13-year-old version of me was learning something. Even in the pain, I was still learning something. Even in that confusion, I was still learning something. Even in the silence, I was learning how to feel deeply, even if I didn't know how to express it.
Wow. Yeah.
I was learning how to endure, even if he didn't call it. I didn't call it that. I was learning how to survive, even if I wasn't healthy.
Mm.
I was still learning how to survive. And now, as the man I am today, I can look back at that 13-year-old kid and say, man, you weren't broken, you were unprocessed.
Mm.
You weren't weak. You were just carrying more than you understood.
Yeah.
And I definitely wasn't lost. God was still writing my story.
Right. Right.
Because what felt like confusion back then was actually the beginning of a language that I would later become fluent in.
Mm.
And that's what people are hearing today through our conversation. I've become fluent in that language of grief.
Mm.
And that's why I can sit with you now, right? That's why
Right.
I can hear what other people are not saying. That's why I don't rush people through their pain, because I
Right.
remember what it felt like to not have those words, or to feel understood and misunderstood, and to just be trying to make it through the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, you said something. Children are known as our forgotten grievers
Mm,
because no fault to the adults, but adults grieve the way they can with what they have and sometimes with what they were taught. So you got to get over it, move on, don't cry. That's what they learn. So that's what they pass on to children, which is not helpful because children need a safe space to not just feel, but to know what to call it and to process it and to know that they have a safe space to just be ugly in and be angry in. They have a name for it. They need that permission.
yes, yes.
And with the work that I do now, I start with children very young because I need them to have the name for it in their own language, in their own age appropriate way to interpret that. Because listen, sometimes some adults walk around right now without the language. They don't know what to call it. I went to a therapist, a professional, and my therapist called it stress. Oh, that wasn't stress, that was grief. And so you see me losing my hair, losing weight, acting out at work. I was grown. Acting out at work, making decisions that didn't serve me, that was grief. And it needed its proper space and proper name. So that's why I'm so big on naming things. And like you said, giving people just space to process. That's why I tell people it's not time that heals wounds or that heals that hurt. It's the process. And the
Yes.
process looks like talking about it. It looks like giving it space. It looks like giving it a name. It looks like validating your anger, validating your questions, making room for your questions. Some adults may not have had the answers to your questions,
Mm,
but that's important to acknowledge too. I don't know the answer to that, sweetie. I wish I knew. But how do you feel about it? We can process that emotion.
wow. Well, let me be real about something, right?
Okay.
And I just don't believe in our spaces this get talked about enough, especially outside of our spaces. But at 13, after losing my mom, I didn't just need strength, Marica. I didn't just need people telling me to be strong or God got you. I
Mm,
needed that permission to grieve.
yes.
And I didn't know how to ask for it,
Yes.
right? And people from the church, they showed up and they came to comfort us, me and my brother and sister. They brought words, they brought prayers, they brought support. But what I saw, what it felt like to me, and I can only speak for me, was something different. and it looked like they had already moved on.
Yeah.
They came in with strength. They came in with answers. They came in with language that sounded resolved. And I'm still sitting there, still trying to understand what just happened.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to process the fact that my mother's gone and still feeling something heavy in my chest that I don't have no words for. And without anybody saying it to me directly, it felt like there was just this unspoken message that we're okay now, and so should you be too. Not because they meant harm, but because they just didn't realize what I needed in that moment. And what I needed wasn't their polished faith. What I needed wasn't quick comfort. I needed space, like you talked about. I needed time. I needed someone to sit in this thing with me.
Yeah.
I needed somebody to say, Consuelo, it's okay that you don't understand this yet. Consuelo, it's okay that you're hurting. Consuelo, it's okay that you're not ready to move on. Because when you don't get permission to grieve, you start suppressing instead of processing.
Yes.
And then I started performing instead of feeling. You learn how to look okay on the outside when something on the inside is still trying to catch up with you. That's what I carried. Not the loss, but the pressure. Whether it was real or perceived, the pressure to be okay before I actually was. There is a pressure out there. And if I can tell parents or anybody things to look for in their kids, look for that pressure. Are we pressuring them to be okay when they're actually not? And looking back now, I understand something deeper, that those people they were doing their best. I believe that in my heart now. I didn't believe it then, but as I'm older and I'm more mature and I'm looking at this from a spiritual lens, those people were doing the best they knew how to do. They were trying to bring comfort the way they understood it.
Right.
But what I needed as a 13-year-old boy wasn't someone to pull me out of my grief.
Right.
It was someone willing to sit in it with me. And that's what has shaped me to who I am today. Because now when I show up for other people, I don't rush them. I don't try to fix it too fast. I don't use faith to silence their pain. I give them what I needed back then. And that's permission to feel this thing, permission to process this thing, and permission to not be okay yet.
Yet. Right.
Key word, yet.
Yet.
Because God don't want us to sit in that thing. But I needed permission to not be okay yet. Because healing doesn't happen when you skip grief. It happens when you're allowed to go through the grief. And sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do for somebody, Marica, isn't to preach them out of their pain. It's to sit with them in it until they find their way through.
Yeah.
Just when you think you got past this thing.
It comes back, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it don't ask for your permission. It's there. It's just there.
Yeah.
But it's a good there now because I can understand it. But it doesn't take away the emotion.
Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta go, just deep breath and say, where we at? Next question.
Well, you know what?
And I'm not deflected. I'm just taking a deep breath.
No, that's fine. That's fine. A lot of people do rush the next question. Let's change the subject. But what did they call you when you were 13 years old?
Con.
Say that, Con?
Con, C-O-N.
So you're telling Con's story right now. And you're feeling what he felt. I'm wondering if you're letting him know, Con, I see you.
Oh my God.
Coach C sees you. The grown up you, I see you. And it was okay. And I'm telling your story to help somebody else.
It's funny you say that because I haven't used that name in years.
Yeah.
And I didn't know why. Well, one of the stories that I tell myself, reality is a lot better than the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
And one of the stories I tell myself is why I don't use Con is because that was a name I identified with pre-Christ. But now I understand the real name, reason why I don't want to use that name, because that's the boy's name. That's that 13-year-old boy's name. And I left him somewhere. And so when you said that, and I had to talk to myself, like, what will you tell Khan today?
Yeah. Yeah.
If I could speak to him today, I would say, hey, man, Khan, I see you.
Yeah.
Not just the man you became, but the 13-year-old boy you had to be.
Yeah.
The one who lost his mother, who didn't have a language for it. The one who was surrounded by the people, but still felt alone in what he was trying to carry. The one who was trying to be strong when what he really needed was space to grieve.
Yeah.
And I need you to hear this today, Khan. You were allowed to grieve. You were allowed to grieve. I just didn't know it. You weren't wrong for feeling what you felt. You weren't weak because you didn't have words. You weren't behind because you didn't move on as fast as it looked like others did. You were processing something that changed your world. And I want to say something else to you, Khan. The people who showed up, they meant well. But what you needed, they didn't fully see. You didn't need this polished faith from them. You didn't need their quick answers. You just needed presence. You needed patience, and you needed permission. And even though you didn't always get that, you're giving it to others now. Look at what God did with your life. That pain that sat in that silence, that confusion you couldn't explain, that weight you carried without understanding. It didn't break you, Khan. It built something in you. And now you can sit with people without rushing them. Now you can hear what they're trying to say and not saying. Now you can create space for them the way you needed it back then. So stop questioning whether you handled it right. Stop judging the version of you that was just trying to survive. You did the best you could with what you had. And God was with you the whole time, even in the places you didn't recognize. And so if I could leave you with one thing, Khan, to hold on to today, it would be this. You didn't just turn the page, as your book suggests, but you became the one who helps others find courage to turn their page. And that 13-year-old boy, he is not forgotten. He is the reason you carry the compassion you do today. He's your voice that has the weight. He's the reason your message reaches people the way it does. So stand in it, young man, not just as somebody who survived pain, but as someone who turned it into purpose.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Khan is the one speaking to you and through you, like you're his voice with all of the work that you do. Whether you've known it all these years or not, you've always been speaking for him. He's always been telling you what he's needed, and you've been validating him by advocating for others.
Wow.
Because
Jesus. That's good.
yeah.
I needed to hear that.
No, Coach C, it reminds me of this television show, Unprisoned, with Kerry Washington and Delroy Lindo. And the show was about a therapist who had her own issues in life, but her father was in prison for most of her life. And you saw the childhood version of her talking her through her circumstances throughout the show. And the adult her, even as a therapist, we think therapists, we're supposed to have it together, but she was healing by listening to that childhood version of her. And your story, your experience just now reminds me of that. And listen to the name of the show, Unprisoned. So
Wow.
You released some stuff in this moment today. You released any hold, any stronghold that might have been on Khan, that might be on you. Just by giving him that space to see him full. You've seen him before, but just now you saw him fully.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you say that, because what hit me in the chest was that everybody that I serve, I see him.
Yeah. Yeah.
That messed me up. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it happens.
And that's why I'm passionate, because I said, I can't leave him like this. I can't leave. I see Khan in everybody that I encounter.
Yeah.
And I treat them and I approach them is, what are you going to do when you see yourself in that person? You see the pain, you see their voice crying out, you see that they want permission to grieve. Are you going to step up and tell them that they have permission? Or are you going to just keep it moving and ignore it like everybody else? And that drives my ministry.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my passion.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to abandon yourself. And when we don't see people the way God wants us to see them, then we have to live with that weight. You're abandoning you. And that's why we don't get to pick and choose ministry. We don't get to pick and choose the call on our life.
Yeah.
Because on the other side of that call is a bunch of yous.
Yeah.
And a God that is backing you. And I feel obligated. I feel obligated. It's a command to go, therefore, in all the earth and rescue you. Help them find a way back home. That's what this is about. God raising up people to help other people find their way back home before it's too late.
Yeah.
Can't leave them out there. Yeah.
Yeah. That's good stuff.
Thank you for sharing that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for just, giving yourself permission to be heard and seen and vulnerable. Because you said something earlier, people were trying their best to give you words of encouragement and you felt like they had moved on, like they had reconciled with the fact that your mother wasn't here, but you were feeling it. You were in that shock and numbness phase, still trying, numbness is a feeling. And I say all the time, it's related to sadness. And you were still trying to just process what in the world just happened. Yesterday was fine, and now today it's another world that I don't understand, one I'm not familiar with and don't want to be a part of. And I want to get to that in a minute. But, I tell my clients, I try to encourage them by letting them know, you're absolutely right. No one understands you. No one understands your pain. You don't understand theirs, because when people say, oh, I understand what you're going through, I encourage people, stop saying that. There is no way you could. You're not supposed to, because you're not grieving the same relationship. We're grieving attachments. We're grieving our bonds. We're grieving relationships. And if I'm not 13-year-old Khan grieving the loss of his mother, there's no way I can ever understand that. And that's okay. You don't have to understand it. Just respect it. That's it.
That's good. And let me say this. When I say it felt like people moved on, I'm not saying they didn't care.
Right.
I'm saying they showed up in a place I hadn't reached yet.
Right.
And that's when I say read the room. People have to realize when they're showing up at funerals and places where people are expressing their grief, they got to realize that people are in a place that they haven't reached yet. They are mature in their faith. They understand that death is transition and it's not final. But a 13-year-old don't know that.
Right.
He's still trying to figure out who he is.
Right. Right.
And so these people, they came around us and they would pray, they spoke life, they brought comfort the way they knew how. But what I saw and what it felt like to me was they sounded like they had already accepted it.
Mm-hmm.
That they carried themselves like they had already processed this thing, that they spoke from a place of peace that I didn't have yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there still trying to understand, Like, what's happening?
Yeah.
So what I'm really saying is they just were in a different place emotionally than I was. And without anybody saying it out loud, it created a pressure.
Yes.
That pressure to be okay. That pressure to respond to them. I need to respond. Everything they said, I needed to respond right away. That pressure to not look like I was stuck.
Hmm.
And I wasn't stuck. I was grieving.
Right.
And what people need in that moment wasn't for people to bring them to where they were. I needed somebody to meet me where I was.
Yes. Yes.
I just needed somebody to see that I'm still trying to process this. I'm still feeling this in real time. I don't have language to explain it to you, but I just need you to discern it.
Yeah.
So if I could say anything to people who are showing up in the midst of people's grief, I would want those people to understand that don't assume because you found peace that the person in pain has.
Yes.
Don't rush people to a conclusion that they're not ready for. And that their presence matter more than their perspective.
Mm.
Just
Hmm.
being with someone matters more than trying to fix somebody. Just be here. Just hold us.
Yeah.
Everybody don't need a sermon at that time.
That takes me back to the person I met with this morning. And he said he was very honest, and I appreciated that. He said, I just feel like God made a mistake. Like he got it wrong. As I feel like he took her before he took me. And my faith is not what's helping me right now. My faith is not it. And I didn't share with him what my beliefs are. This was his space. My response to him was, yeah. And we had a 30-second pause. He just needed the space. He didn't need my opinion. He didn't need what works for me. He didn't need to know what I've seen. He just needed to know it was okay for him to feel like that in his space. That was it. And the word pressure keeps coming up in performance. Going back to my second episode with the young lady who's grieving her husband, she talked about people who tell her, oh, you're so strong, or be strong. And she said, that created pressure for me to pretend like I was okay, for me to perform. Because if I wasn't grieving the way you expect me to, now I feel like I'm doing something wrong. If you don't mind, Coach C, take us back to the words that you overheard and the impact that those words had on you at that time as 13-year-old Con.
Yeah. This is the part that really shifted everything, because we just talked about how we need to be discerning when we show up in places where people are grieving and have some level of discernment. I'm not asking people to shrink their faith or shrink what they believe in. Just be understanding that people are not where they are in the faith. Because what I heard, first of all, these people were my mother's friends. These were people who served with her, Marica. These were people who worshiped with her life. They spent the vast majority of their day serving God together. So my expectation, even at 13, was that they know how to comfort me.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was hearing through their dialogue and their conversation was those poor kids, they're going to become statistics. That man can't raise them by himself. And that's just not a fact. That's an assumption. There was no evidence to support that level of thinking. Usually when we make assumptions, there's typically some evidence that you gather so you can turn that assumption into a fact.
Mm-hmm.
But they made that statement. Now, I could understand, Marica, if these were not people of faith. I can try to rationalize with that logic. But for people to be grounded in their faith, people to have a relationship with God, this was an opportunity for them to let the Holy Spirit express God through them. The way they comfort, the what they speak, their intentionality. But that level of awareness, that fruit was not visible to me on that day that I needed them the most. And that's the danger of misrepresentation. The Bible even speaks to say, they will know you by what? Our fruit. And so their language was not a language of faith. But I didn't know that at the time. I just thought these were some credible people. They go to church, they serve with my mom. So what they say must be true. So I'm thinking, if I'm going to become a statistic, I'm not sitting around for that. And once I began to tell myself, Marica, that narrative and that story, I came into agreement with that narrative. And I didn't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Why would I want to sit around and become a statistic when I can just join my mother? And so that pushed me, that dialogue and me coming into agreement with that narrative at such a young age, I was very vulnerable. And that spirit got on me, that spirit of suicide, it got on me. I came into agreement with it and I tried to walk it out. I slipped in the kitchen, I grabbed a knife. Nobody saw me because they was busy fellowshipping and talking. And so I just kind of eased my way into the bathroom. I locked the door and I tried to take my life. And we lived behind this train track that I talked about before. And it was nothing but the grace of God that allowed that train horn to be so loud that it woke me out of that moment.
Thank you, Jesus.
And I thank God every day that He didn't give me the courage to go through with it.
Yeah.
And that's the only time in my life that I've ever thanked God for not having the courage for something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so words matter. People are listening, especially vulnerable children. So read the room. Learn to read the room.
Read the room. That's one of the biggest lessons. Learn to read the room.
And more importantly, be a representation of your faith, especially in vulnerable moments. There's not another tragic moment than misrepresenting your faith in someone's grief. Show up and reflect God. Where is the nature of God in you? So that.
Yeah. Because it sounds like at the end of the day, they allowed their fear to creep in over their faith. Fear that your father wouldn't be able to raise you all without your mother present, without help.
Yes.
And so that was a feeling, that was an assumption, that was not a fact. Because listen, what was the fact? What ended up happening?
Woo.
That trumped out their fear.
Yeah. Yes, that's a loaded.
Out their fear.
Let me just tell you, God has a sense of humor. You know, this man that they thought wasn't able to raise those kids. This man that they thought, these assumptions that he didn't have a relationship with God because he didn't attend their place of fellowship. And that's the mistake that a lot of believers make. Just because someone is not part of your church group or your denomination, that somehow they don't have a relationship with God. That's one of the biggest lies the devil ever told. And not only did my father have a relationship with God, one of my mother's prayers in her lifetime was that my stepfather have a relationship with Christ, not necessarily in her lifetime. She just said she just wanted him to be saved in his lifetime.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great prayer for family members to have for loved ones, because that one, it shows that how unselfish she was.
Mm.
Because any woman would naturally want to experience life with a husband that's saved in their lifetime so they can enjoy the benefits of that. But my mother, she was just different. She was more concerned with my stepfather's soul than how it benefits her in her lifetime.
Wow.
And that's where we got to get back to the soul business. When are we going to make it about the soul instead of us?
Mm.
What can we get out of it? No, what can God get out of this? And I'm at the point in my life where everything I do is, what can God get out of this? And if God can't get nothing out of it, Marica, I don't want no part of it. And that's why we have to die to ourselves daily. That's why we have to pick up our cross. Because if we never do that, it will always, by nature, make it about us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he ended up getting an incredible relationship with God on my watch. I'm a witness. I got
Yes.
to witness this.
Yes.
A praying wife's prayers have come to pass.
Yes.
Manifested.
Yes.
And I tell people, me and my siblings are the manifestations of a praying mother that came to pass.
Yes.
People think just because a person transitioned that their prayers stop manifesting. My mother's prayers are still manifesting to this day, and they'll continue to manifest for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
That's the power of prayer. That's a different language.
That gave me a chill. Yes.
And I try to emphasize that to people, because somehow they think because their loved one's gone that all of those prayers, all of that intercession has ceased. No, they're being fulfilled. Look at when Jesus was crucified. Was the prayers not being fulfilled? Was the scripture not being fulfilled? Was he not resurrected? Oh my God. Thank you, Holy Ghost. So there's just so much to unpack, so much revelation. And that's what gives me the courage to talk and share Khan to the world.
Yeah.
I don't show up at most places at speaking engagements and they ask me for a bio. I don't tell them, hey, I'm this colonel. I don't talk titles. I don't do any of those things, because people can't connect with that. They might think I can't identify with that. This person never struggled. He's always had it good.
Yeah.
So always take people back to the 13-year-old me.
Yeah.
I always introduce them to Khan first. And then I showed them how God took Khan and his pain and he made a Coach C. Who is God taking you in your pain, and where are you going to land? So thanks for asking that question.
Oh, thanks.
I did take my stepfather back to that church.
Okay.
And he sat in the pew. They had no idea who he was. They invited me back to speak. I was a young man in college by then. Matter of fact, this was after college, when Dad was experiencing his transformation. I said, Dad, we got to go back to the church. He said, what, son? We don't need to prove nothing to nobody. No, Dad, it's not about that. This is to increase their faith. And so he said, okay, I'll go. So he's sitting in the pew and they invite me to come up and speak. And I go up and I speak and I said, church, I want to introduce you to somebody. My father, John Henry Allen. And he was like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I can't begin to tell you how liberating that was a God moment for me. It was just like a beautiful God moment because the same man that they said, people of faith, that can't raise those kids,
Mm-hmm.
not
Uh-huh.
only raise those kids, but they became children of faith, servants in the kingdom of God,
Look at that. Look at that. Your mother's prayer is still being answered.
still being manifested.
Huh. I don't know if the people caught it.
It didn't even matter at that point.
Well, no, I'm about to point something out.
Okay,
You
go
said
ahead.
stepfather. You didn't
Yes.
say biological father. So the man who is not even your biological father in your bloodline,
I didn't even think about it that way.
he raised you.
Go ahead, Holy Spirit.
He canceled out those fears and those assumptions.
Go ahead, Holy Spirit. While the biological father's still there, alive in the same town.
Look at that.
And so that's who I call dad.
Mm.
I never called him stepfather
Mm-hmm.
because he showed up as a father,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I'm very conscious of titles. I don't tell people who I am. I show up and I let people tell me who I am based on their experience with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of the time they say, you must be some type of preacher or pastor or something. And I look at them, Marica, I say, flesh and blood didn't reveal that to you. That can only be revealed by the Holy Spirit.
Uh-huh.
Because so many people today, Marica, are showing up in people's life, telling people who they are. But the people never experience that version of them.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Your dad didn't even know what he was doing. He was proving the people wrong. He probably wasn't even aware of that. And so because here you are, you have your dad who's grieving his wife. You're grieving your mom, your siblings are grieving their mother, and you're all grieving the same person in the same home, but you're having different experiences in your grief.
Yes.
And here you are today as Coach C. So I'm thankful that you had support and you had people in your life who played a pivotal role in you growing from Con to Coach C. So I heard you mention your great-grandmother. I heard you mention your dad. Is there anyone else who played a pivotal role in you becoming the man you are today?
Yes, I'm glad you answered that question because this person, it was the new matriarch.
Mm-hmm.
That is my mother's sister, my Aunt Gwen.
Okay.
I can't even begin to tell you how God has used this woman of God. So when my mother passed, everything shifted, not just emotionally, but structurally, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because in our family, my mother wasn't just mom, she was a pillar. She was the covering. Wasn't part of the foundation, she was the foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And when she was gone, there was this gap. And that's where my Aunt Gwen stepped in, not by title, but by presence.
Mm.
She became that matriarch. And it wasn't something that was announced. It was something that was assumed through responsibility, through strength, and through consistency. And from my perspective, what I saw was this. She carried the weight, not just of her own grief of losing her sister, but ours too.
Mm.
She had to hold things together while probably dealing with her own questions, her own pain, her own emotions, and she had her own children.
Wow. Wow.
Now here was the irony. My mom's mother, which is my grandmother, their mother, died around the same age my mother did. And
Oh,
so
wow.
my mother had to raise her siblings and us.
Mm.
And so she had a model. She understood the assignment because
Wow.
she had been trained.
And
But a
didn't-
13-year-old boy, I didn't fully understand everything she was carrying too.
Mhm.
But I could feel it. She represented the stability in the moment where everything felt unstable for me and my siblings. She became our reference point when we was trying to figure out what life looked like without mom. Who do we look like? Who do we look to now? Who holds the family? Who's going to rally the family on holidays? She stepped into that space. But here's the part I understand now that I didn't fully understand then. Just because she was strong didn't mean she wasn't grieving.
Right.
Just because she showed up didn't mean she hadn't processed everything.
Right.
She was leading while she was hurting. She was holding things together.
Yeah.
While feeling the same loss as us. And from my perspective, that created another layer to what I experienced, because while I needed permission to grieve, I also watched someone carry responsibility. And sometimes when you see strength like that, you don't realize you're allowed to be weak. You don't realize you're allowed to slow down because everything around you is trying to stay together. But looking back now, I have such deep appreciation. She didn't replace my mother, but she protected what my mother built.
Ooh.
She helped keep the family together. And I mean it. She provided structure when things could have just fell apart.
Yeah.
So when I speak on my story, I don't just talk about the loss. I talk about who stepped in after it.
That's right.
Because purpose isn't just revealed in what's been taken. It's also revealed in who God positioned to help you through it. Especially in that season. My aunt became exactly what the family needed. Even while she was still navigating her own grief. Let me tell you what this woman did. I was all down on myself after I graduated from college and didn't make the score that I needed to make to accept my scholarship that I was offered at this particular school. And so I just started kind of just being depressed, feeling sorry for myself, just doing nothing. And she just came to me one day and she said, look, get in the car. And she drove up to my high school. She basically almost kicked my coach's door down. She said, this boy that gave you 4 years of his life, he gave you all he had. You're going to do something for this boy. He's not going to sit here and be nothing. And that next week, Marica, my coach had me in this college combine where I could perform, do some things. They look at all my data, my statistics, they look at all my accomplishments, and then they can decide if they want to offer me a scholarship. And God has such a humor, because this wasn't the big school I was expecting. This was a small liberal arts Baptist college.
Wow. Oh.
See, God been after me this whole time. So he wasn't just interested in saving me. He was interested in training me, sending me to the best schools where I can learn about who he is. I didn't even get it.
Yeah.
I'm in there cheating on Old Testament and New Testament. I laugh about that today. I'm looking at folk, man, how you know who Paul is? And that's why I say God got such a sense of humor. But I'm glad you asked that question, because we never think through who's next.
Yeah.
Who's going to step in? Who's going to fill the gap?
Yeah.
You know? And so after my stepfather raised me, I graduated, I go off to college. She gets me into college. She comes up and she's there championing me, her and her husband, my Uncle Willie, the whole time. She even went to the Social Security office and got to talking to those people. And next thing you know, I had a check from my mom I didn't even know I was entitled to.
Wow.
That got me through college.
Wow.
That sustained me. I just didn't have the character to The manager steward the money.
But you
Oh,
had it.
yeah, but I had it. And that's a whole nother story. God provided.
He provided. That's right. Jehovah Jireh. That's
God can
right.
provide. We still got a steward.
Yeah. Yeah. That
No, and
might be
that's
a
a whole
one
other
day.
lesson. But
Right.
great. But
Right.
but the point that I want people to understand is God has a plan in our grief. We might not
Mhm.
understand it because we haven't taken the time to do any introspection and reflection and look at how God was moving people around in our lives to fill the void. Sometimes we sit in our anger, we're blinded by our anger and our hurt that we can't even see all these chess moves on this board.
Yes.
But
Yes.
God never was not in the picture. We just took our eyes off God. And if you take your eyes off somebody, don't mean they ain't in the picture. That means you just took your eyes off them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so thank you for asking that question, because that really makes me have a lot of gratitude towards my aunt. And not just her, but the other people in my life, like my siblings who have their own stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As we come to a close, I want to ask this question because a lot of people who are grieving don't understand the weight of the grief that they're carrying, like the true weight. And that goes back to the secondary losses. Everything that your mother embodied for you, a lot of those things went with her. And it sounds like she left you beautiful gifts and lessons in life. And I want to get to that next. But when you can understand those secondary losses, who she is and who she was to you, those other things that you also grieved as a 13-year-old boy, that grief is different. Can you share with us some of that weight and what that weight looked like for you? Can you identify those secondary losses?
Yeah, absolutely. I never really thought through some of those secondary losses, but let me say this, at that age, at 13, I only knew my mom from one perspective.
Hmm.
She was my mom. She was the one who took care of me. She was the one who showed up in a way that I understood at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But as I've grown, I've come to terms with something even deeper. I didn't fully know her,
Wow.
and now I'm learning who she was,
Yeah.
not just as my mother, but as a woman.
Yeah. Wow.
Who she was before she was saved, what she went through, what shaped her, what God brought her out of, for me to even be here, for my siblings to even be here. She has a story too.
Right.
And me and my siblings, we only know her, the saved version of my mama.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say, well, you wasn't really mature enough to understand that. You wouldn't have understood that. But I do now. And so I started asking my aunt and her siblings, like, what was mom like, before she was saved? And what was her life like growing up, And they tell me she had to grow up fast because we lost our mom early. So your mom had to step into that role really young.
Yeah.
And just that is admirable. Seeing the weight that she had at such a young age while still trying to be young and live her unsaved life
Yeah.
before she even met God. And I wasn't ashamed because her life before me tells me what she had to go through for me to even be here. I was able to see her resilience. Now I know where my resilience comes from. And so it's not just that I miss my mom. I wish I could have known that version. I wish I could have understood her story, why she was here, so I could appreciate her even more. I wish I could have asked questions I didn't know to ask at 13. And that's the part people don't see. They think grief is just about a moment, but grief evolves.
Yes. My
And as
goodness.
you grow, your understanding grows.
Yes.
Now I don't just grieve her absence, I grieve the conversations we never had. I
Yes.
grieve the parts of her story that I'm only now discovering. I grieve the connection I didn't have the capacity to understand back then.
Mm.
And just learning who she was before she was saved, that adds a whole nother layer because now I see her strength differently. I see her faith differently. I see her transformation differently. I don't just see who she was to me. I see who she fought to become her.
Wow.
And it makes me honor her even more. And that's why I'm launching the Peggy and John Oliver Foundation.
Mm.
Because I want to give back, one, to people who have children who lost a mother to lupus.
Okay.
In her name, in her honor. I want to give back in my stepfather's name to stepfathers out there who stand in the gap, who understand covenant is not just marrying a woman, but marrying everything about that woman, including her children that may not be biologically his.
Wow. Wow.
And that's how I keep, their story alive in my heart. That's how I show them that I honor you. But it also makes me feel the weight of what I didn't fully grasp when she was here. So when I talk about that weight of grief, I'm not just talking about tears. I'm talking about growth, revealing what I didn't know.
Mm.
Maturity, uncovering what I couldn't see, and time exposing the depth of what I lost.
Wow. Yeah.
Because grief isn't static. Grief never stays in one place. It moves with you.
Mm.
And sometimes the hardest part isn't what you felt then, it's what you understand now.
Now, that's right. That's right. Ooh.
And that's why it requires patience.
Mm.
Because we're not just healing from what happened, we're still processing what we're still learning. And that takes time. It takes real time. You can't rush it. You can't force it. It takes the kind of time that allows you to grow into that understanding whenever it decides to come. And there's some tears going to come with that. And that's okay.
Right. You just gave someone else permission with that. Permission to not rush it. I encounter so many people who say, I just want to get this on with already, get this over with. I just want to feel better already.
Yeah. Good luck with that.
Right. Right.
I could be
Wow.
having some of the best days. And I used to really be impacted on those holidays and stuff, the Mother's Day. As a kid, I was always a star athlete, good athlete. And then just the re-traumatization of seeing your friend's mom walking them down on Senior's Day. People don't know how that lands on another person.
Yeah.
Even though you are being celebrated with these great achievements, where you would think, hey man, this is your moment. Like, what's up? Like, what's going on? And they don't know me watching one of my friends' mom walk them across the field. They don't know what that did to me. And then they think I'm supposed to just be cool because I'm being celebrated.
Right. Right.
See, it's the little things. It's our ability to discern and read the room, because they think, oh man, that happened a long time ago. No, but this celebration is now. And what I'm seeing real time now is a mother celebrating their child.
And yours is not present.
Right. And I'm the one that's being acknowledged and celebrated.
Right.
But
Right.
they don't understand, like, bro, you good? So now I gotta perform.
There
Yeah,
it
I'm
is.
good, man. I'm good, dog.
Yeah. Yeah. There it is
Knowing
again.
I'm broken. But I can't tell nobody because I got an image to uphold.
Yeah.
Religion has taught me, and the world has taught me to be, hey, be strong. You're a man up.
Ooh.
I ain't even touched that yet.
No, we have not. No, we have not. And what you just described is sometimes you don't recognize, or you're not able to identify what those secondary losses are until you're in that space without your person.
Yes. So
That
lots
might that
lots
might
of
come years
secondary
later.
losses. And I think
Yeah,
that's something that needs to be really unpacked because people don't talk about the secondary losses,
right.
but they are many.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are many.
You said something. May is the month that we celebrate mothers, and May is also Mental Health Awareness Month. And what do you let's go there for a second. What do you want people to know about strength? Can we talk to our Black men about strength and
Mm,
grieving? Can we do that? Can we be real? Can we be real with that?
absolutely. And
Because
I'm
I
glad
meet so
you
many men
asked.
who run from it, or who have that image to uphold, and that's pressure to perform. And I know they're broken inside because I see the way they carry themselves. You can see it through their behaviors. You can hear what's not being said, and you see things that no one else would notice when you have that ear and that eye. What's your message to them?
Oh, to the Black men, to the brothers, or to just men in general, but especially Black men, because I can identify with you in so many other ways.
Yeah.
I need you to hear me clearly. Strength is not the same as silence,
Mm.
and performance is not the same as healing. And we've been taught how to show up for the family, how to show up for responsibilities, how to show up when things fall apart. But nobody really taught us how to process what we feel when we lose something that mattered. So what do? We perform strength. We hold it together. We keep moving like nothing happened. And here's the sad part. People applaud that. And they
Hmm.
call it resilience. They call it being a man. They call it leadership. But what they don't see is what it costs you. Because when I lost my mother, I didn't just lose a person, I lost a place to be vulnerable. I lost that first place to be vulnerable. I lost a voice that knew me in a different way. I lost something I didn't even fully understand at 13. And instead of being taught how to grieve that, I learned how to function without it. So, to every man listening to me in a month like this, I want you to understand something. You are allowed to feel that loss. You're allowed to miss your mother in ways you can't explain. You're allowed to not be okay when her name comes up. That doesn't mean you're weak. That just means you're honest.
Mm.
Because this performance strength will get you through a moment, but it won't heal that wound. And what you don't process is going to show up in your relationships. What you don't process is going to show up in your anger. And what you don't process is going to show up in how you love or struggle to love somebody. And I need you to know this. Your tears don't disqualify your manhood. Your grief doesn't make you less stronger. And that vulnerability doesn't make you less of a leader. In fact, it's what makes you real. And here's the truth that most of us have never been told. That real strength is having the courage to feel what you've been avoiding. You're more than just a provider. You're more than just a protector. But you got to learn to process. Because when you don't give yourself permission to grieve, you don't just carry the loss. You carry the weight of that unexpressed emotion. You carry stories you never said out loud. You carry pain that nobody knows how to help you with. So I challenge you in this month where everybody's celebrating their mothers, and some of you are silently remembering yours. I want you to hear this from me. You don't have to perform today. You don't have to pretend today. You don't have to rush past what you feel. Take a moment. Sit with this thing. Acknowledge it and honor it. Because healing doesn't come from acting like we're okay. It comes from being honest about where we're not. And if you're going to change anything in your family, if you're going to change anything in your future relationships or your legacy, it starts right here. Men don't. Brothers who don't just carry strength. We can't be known for people who just don't carry strength. We can't be known for people who don't process pain. We want to be known for that. That's what you want to be known for. I want my kids and I want my son to know my dad knows how to process pain. Because that's the kind of strength that actually heals him. And nobody probably never told you this, but I'm going to tell you today, you have permission to grieve. You have permission to be angry. You have permission to miss your mom. That's not a sign of your weakness. That's a sign of your love for your mom. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's a blessing. That's a blessing. I think that message can go for man, woman, and child. And I thank you for that. I thank you for that. That deserves. I heard you take a breath. I want you to take another one. You released a lot today.
Oh yeah, I didn't anticipate this going this way.
That's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of what we do in this platform. It sounds like as you were giving the gift of your story to the listeners, you also got something for you.
Yeah, I love when that happens
Mm-hmm.
because I feel so much lighter,
Yeah.
and I
Hear that,
didn't realize I
people?
was still carrying so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There are still things yet to be processed, and that's okay.
Yep.
So I'll give you a second, and we cannot leave this platform today without you telling us about the book that was birthed through the lessons that you learned from your mom and your grief and your healing journey.
Oh yeah, that part.
Yeah, take a minute. Take a minute. We're here. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, you pulling on me today. Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready when you are.
I'm here.
So, all right, let me tell you about this book. You know, it's funny that we're talking about the book at this juncture of the conversation because writing this book, it feels like what we did today was me. You just got a picture of what it felt like writing this book.
Wow. Okay.
That's what took it 2 years, for one, because I would get to these points where I just didn't want to finish writing.
Yeah.
I was processing. And I thought I was good. And then when I got to certain chapters, I just, okay, I'm not going to do it. I just procrastinated. I put it back. I don't think I was procrastinating. I was just hurt. And, you know, see how I tried to quickly label my pain with procrastination? No, I was hurt.
Yeah.
I was triggered. I hit a point where, okay, I'm, and you know, and then you know, my publisher, he's pushing me for timelines, and I was like, look, man, I need a minute. Well, I need this. You know, I was like, look, I need a minute.
Yeah.
So we eventually got it done. But so let me tell you about this book. The book is called Purpose in the Pain. Pain happens, turn the page. You know, because this wasn't just something I wrote. This is something I lived. Right? I didn't sit down with a strategy. I didn't map out a perfect message. This book came out of real pain. You know, it's almost like you said, hey, go back and talk to Khan. So this book was my attempt to go back and introduce Khan to the world, because everybody who knew me, they knew Colonel, they knew Coach, but you can't know Colonel and Coach if you don't know Khan.
Mm-hmm.
They're inseparable, because Khan is going to help you appreciate the Colonel and the Coach,
Yeah.
and the Colonel and the Coach will make you appreciate Khan.
Yeah.
So for me, I talk about in the book how everything shifted when I lost my mother. You know, that wasn't just a moment, that was my wound. That was my first encounter with pain. And the intent of the book is to get people to walk back over their life and see, did they ever respond properly to their first encounter with pain? I mean, I want you to think about it. Do you actually recall your first encounter when you was hurt? And if so, how old were you? Like, who does that?
Yeah.
And so I didn't fully understand how much it impacted me until later on in life. It showed up in ways I talk about in the book that I didn't recognize at first. It started to show up in my emotions, how I was reacting to that young boy at the school when he just tried to apologize to me. It started showing up in my relationships. I didn't even want to get married. I didn't want to be in relationships because I felt like I'm not giving God the advantage of me to hurt me again.
Mm.
So if I just don't get close to nobody, I don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
So now that almost cost me relationships. And I'm not afraid of love, but I'm afraid that God has this power to take love away from me. And I
Afraid
don't
of
like to
losing.
give nobody that type of power.
Yeah.
And so I almost didn't even get married or get in a relationship. But, you know, this woman was just, you know, I wasn't ready to walk away either.
Right.
And it was something in her where it drove me back to God and say, okay, God, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Hey, let's work something out. You know, and here's the system that I created for myself. I use my mother's transition as a measuring stick to pain. So nothing ever happened to me through my youth could ever measure up to that level of pain. So I just pushed my way through life.
Mm.
And you know, things would happen and I would be hurt, but I was like, man, this ain't nothing. Because the worst thing that happened to me, so bump this. And that was my theology. And I would drive through life like that.
Mm.
And so it showed up in my relationships, it showed up in my emotions, and it showed up in how I started to see myself. It definitely showed up in how I saw God. And there were some seasons where I was just carrying this pain that I didn't know how to process. So I did what a lot of people do. I pushed it down. I kept moving. I learned how to function without ever really trying to heal from it. But that unprocessed pain don't like to stay quiet.
It speaks. Grief
Yeah, it
speaks.
started speaking to me.
Yes.
It started showing up in my decisions, in my
Yeah.
reactions. It started showing up in the very places that I was trying to build. And at some point, Marica, I had to face it. And that's what the book is really about. Not avoiding pain, not pretending the pain didn't happen, but confronting the pain and learning how to sit in that pain and understand it and allow God to transform it.
Mm.
Because I learned something through my journey, that pain isn't just something you go through, but it's something that can grow you if you let it.
If you let it.
I had to give pain permission to grow me. And I had to learn how to stop blaming people. And that's one of the core principles that I start out in the book. I give them 5 principles. And that first principle, Marica, is I had to learn how to stop blame shifting. And then I had to learn how to release what I was holding against other people. and even what I was holding against God. And that required me to rebuild my faith in places where life had shaken my faith. There were some moments I didn't understand. There were some moments I questioned everything. There were some moments I had to be real with God about where I was. But what I was discovered was this: God never wastes pain. And when I finally stopped running from it, that's when the purpose started to show up in it.
Yeah.
And so the book was written for people who are carrying grief. It's written for people who are fighting these silent battles. It's for people who are trying to make sense of their story. It's for people that's wondering, why didn't life unfold the way it did for me? What the book is not there to tell somebody to get over it. I'm here to tell the other side to it. And that if you're willing to face it, if you're willing to process it, if you're willing to surrender it to God, that same pain that tried to break you can become the very thing that builds you.
Wow.
Because my life had taught me that I didn't become who I am in spite of my pain. I became who I am because I faced it. And at the end of the day, everything I wrote in the book comes back to one truth. And that's my pain has purpose. But only the truth can unlock that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so those 5 core principles, turn the page, was that story. That first principle: confront the pain. Don't bury it. Stop trying to bury it. Because it don't disappear just because you ignore it. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that people make, is learning how to function while they're still broken. You can build a life, you can lead people, you can show up every day and still be carrying wounds that are shaping your behavior behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
And that was me. So this particular principle is all about honesty, because you can't heal what you don't acknowledge. And what you bury doesn't die, it multiplies. Think about all the seeds that people bury. It's multiplying down there under that ground. Well, pain is a seed. You bury it, it's multiplying under that surface. And it's going to come up one way or the other. And then that second principle is taking responsibility for your healing. It wasn't my fault. What happened to my mom was not my fault, but my healing is my responsibility. And that's where a lot of people get stuck, because they wait for these apologies. They're waiting for this closure. They're waiting for somebody else to fix what was broken. But freedom doesn't come from what others do. It comes from what you decide. I don't get to control what happened, but I do control what I do with it. What are you doing with this pain? Am I redirecting it by helping others in my community? By challenging myself to go rescue all the cons out there? And then that third one, that's where that release the blame and forgive. Because holding on to that pain means holding on to people who hurt you. And sometimes even holding something against God. I held this thing against God from 13 to 28.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will never know that, because I knew how to perform.
Yeah.
Because forgiveness isn't about excusing what happened. It's about freeing yourself from being tied to it. Forgiveness is not approval. It's not saying I approve this. It's release. And if I don't release it, it's going to keep showing up in my relationships. It's going to keep showing up in my reactions. It's going to definitely show up in who I think I am, in my identity. And so I had to come encounter with the truth, because you got to rebuild your identity through truth. Pain has a voice. We already talked about that. And if you're not careful, it'll tell you who you are. I'm rejected. I'm not enough. I'll always be this way. So that principle is about replacing those lies with God's truth. Our identity is not what happened to us. It's what God says about us. And then that last principle, where I'm talking about walk in your purpose now. Turn the page. If you don't turn the page, you're never going to walk in your purpose. And this is where everything comes together, because healing is not the finish line. It's just the doorway. And somehow we think healing, oh, when I'm healed, that's the finish line. No, that's just the doorway. Because there's going to come a moment where you have to stop rereading the same painful chapter and decide, I'm turning the page. That doesn't mean you forget your story. It means your story no longer controls you. Now your pain becomes what? Wisdom. It becomes compassion. It becomes direction. It becomes purpose. You don't just survive pain. You step into purpose because of the pain. And so these 5 principles, they're not steps for you to check off and check a block. Right? There are a process that you got to live through. And when you walk through them, remember I told you you're at the doorway now. So now what do I do at the doorway? I walk through. This pain was never there to destroy me. It was there to develop me. And so that's kind of the gist of the whole book. And I want people to, because they don't always have people around. They don't always have a mentor. They don't have a coach. They don't have people, but they can sit with this book.
Right.
And Khan will minister to them through this book. And Khan in that book will outlive the physical Khan.
Yeah.
Khan will still be talking when the physical Khan long gone, when Coach C long gone. Khan will still be talking, because this book is something that can be transferred down to the next generation.
That's right.
It's a gift to break family cycles of grief. So I hope that helps you appreciate the book.
You mentioned the gift that Khan is leaving with us, that Coach C has left for us. Tell us where to find this gift. How do we get our hands on it?
Oh my goodness. You can get this gift at your local Amazon online, Walmart.com. It's everywhere. It's in different countries. You just need to go online, Google my name, Consuello Hodges / purpose in the pain. It is out there. You can grab it. And I've seen people purchasing it all over the world now. So I'm super excited about that too. Like, what? It's over here. It's over there.
Grief is all over the world, over here, over there.
So wherever there's pain, there's my book.
There's your book. I will also add that information to the podcast episode. If you're listening, that means you're in the platform, so you'll have the information ready and available. I'll have those links for you to make it easier. Coach C, one more thing.
Sure.
I grew up just feeling that music was the foundation of healing. I didn't know that when my grandmother died when I was 9, it was really music that helped me grieve her. She died in 1984, and those power ballads back in the day, I didn't realize they were helping me through my grieving journey. So I always have our guests and our listeners, if you've told me your story, you have to leave me with a song. Is there a song that helped you or still helps you get through or just encourages you? Or is there a song that comes to mind that you can leave for us today that we can add to I have this playlist. It's called the Adaptive Anthem playlist. Is there a song that we can add to the list for the listeners?
I like how you do that. Manifestations. When I play that song, it just reminds me of being the manifestation of a praying mother that have come to pass. The song is by Enrique, Enrique Holmes, and it's called Manifestation.
All right, I love that.
And it just reminds you that God is, if he allowed it, he's working through it. He's going to manifest it. If he allowed it, that means he's working through it.
I love that. That is going on
So we got to live in the expectation of something being manifested. We can't let transition. And we have to look at death differently. We don't die in the kingdom of God. We transition. Because people get caught up with the word death and they think things are final. Death has a final language to it, but we don't say death, we say transition. We just change the zip codes.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I love that.
Especially for people who in the military who PCS'd a lot. They know every 3 years you got transition, you got PCS.
Transition.
You have a permanent change of station. So my mother had a permanent change of station. She's no longer in earth, she's in heaven.
That just made my stomach turn, but in a good way, because the first word, I told you all we speak the same language. The first word that came to my mind was adapting.
I love it.
It's not final. We change the way we show up in a new space.
Because when you wire the brain to think finality, then the brain responds in protect mode, survival mode.
Absolutely.
Wait, this is final. I got to fight or flight right now.
Yes.
But if you're just thinking, hey, different address, that's it, bro.
Different address. So we move from trauma responses to adapting and learning who we are in a new space. I call that the journey of self-rediscovery.
Yeah, and new to this. Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
A new space. When you buy a new toy, you read the instructions, you figure out, you learn how to navigate this new space. You don't try to figure it out in one day. And grief is the same way. Some of us are new to grief. We never operated in this space. So God is trying to teach us how to operate in this space. So we got to go back to the manual. God has the manual. Go back to his word of God. God, how do you want me to navigate in this new space? But we don't do that. We distance ourselves from God. So now we don't even have instructions on this new space. We don't get the privilege to try to figure out the new space on our own. You're not just gonna magically figure this thing out. You got to go back to the source and say, God, you know all about this new space because you're the owner of this new space. How do you want me to navigate in this new space that you have allowed me to step into? And you don't even have to, you just need to follow him in the space because he's the tour guide.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop walking around this new space with no directions.
Yeah.
That's like moving to a city and just walking around and not asking for help. You can walk around all day, be confused.
And some people do it, walking around in circles. I thank you, Coach C. I thank Con for gifting us with his voice and his experience. And I thank you, Coach C, for just blessing us with the gift of your story. What were your takeaways from today?
Well, that's a great question. First of all, I think that if you don't have a grief coach, you can start here with Marica because she helped me unpack through this process and this journey. And this is just her interviewing me. You haven't even seen the depth of the work that she actually does in unpacking this grief and walking you safely through that process so you don't feel like you're in this thing by yourself. I think that's important. I think we have to get over not wanting to be helped. She's a resource, and there's other resources like Marica that's out there. I would just make sure that they're grounded in their faith because it makes a difference from the perspective in which a person approaches providing you clarity. I don't like to talk about myself in the intro. I know we didn't really do that. So I want to go back now that you know who Con is and just leave you with a little bit who Coach C is and Consuello Hodges is today. He's the manifestation of Con that has come to pass from a praying mother. He's a transformational leader. He's a speaker. He's a coach with 25 years of ministry and leadership experience across multiple churches and communities. He's known for his bold, spirit-led teaching. He's raw, he's authentic, he doesn't sugarcoat stuff. He's spirit-led in his teaching, and he carries a powerful call to restore identity, heal relationships, and equip individuals to walk in truth, walk in the grace of God, and walk in their purpose. He has a business called Hodges Leadership Coaching Solutions. That's where I have most of my clients. I have the Purpose in the Pain community that was birthed through the book. that helps people navigate life's hardest seasons with clarity, accountability, and faith. And my approach is typically I try to merge biblical truth with real life application. I like to challenge people to break the cycles. Why not you be the cycle breaker for your generation, for your family? I like to help people establish healthy boundaries and live from their identity instead of their dysfunction. And I think I have a unique grace for addressing relationships and marriage and singleness and all of those family dynamics. My messages are known for being direct, healing focused, life shifting. I want to call people out of this fear and out of this insecurity, out of survival mode, into being that bold spirit living son of God. My most recent adventure is I've expanded my marriage teaching, and I accepted this role as a facilitator and the president of GOT. It's called Got Marriage. That's God over the marriage, God over this, God over everything. But in this GOT space, I focus on the marriages. Other people focus on different areas. And it's just another safe space for singles and couples to align with God's design for relationships. And whether I'm speaking on Clubhouse or coaching clients or writing books, my mission is still the same, is to help people see God clearly, to understand who they are in God, and to just live boldly from the truth, from that truth of who God is. And my message could be summed up in one powerful belief, Marica, and that's your pain has purpose, but only truth will unlock it. So we can't do any of this work without the truth.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love the way this was structured. I do believe this was God's design because we got to know Con and Coach C before we were aware of your titles and your work.
I love that. I love that too.
We're keeping this at the end.
That's strategic. And that's how we should with our life. Show
Yeah.
up and meet people with who you are when nobody needs you, so they can see, like, who is the real Marica? You're like, does she like ice cream? What's her favorite color? See, people have pushed that person so far down, they have suppressed that person that they've lost touch with them. And so the type of work you do and I do, we help people rediscover that person because that person is important in their life.
That's right. That's right. Coach C is a phenomenal speaker. He will challenge your thinking. He will make you question things that you've normalized that may not be serving you. Coach C, as we close, can you tell us more about the Clubhouse and how to even reach you or to become a part of that platform?
Absolutely. So let me talk about the Clubhouse space first. All right. So for those who are not familiar with Clubhouse, it's an app that I've been on for about 5 years, have been pouring in the life of others through this app. I operate in about 6 different spaces on that app, but my own house is called Coach C's House. Coach C isn't just a name, right? It's not just a brand. It's not just a role. It's a responsibility that was born out of pain. Right? Coach C is who I became after life forced me to face some things I didn't understand. After I had to navigate that loss of my mother at 13, after I had to figure out how to function without having the language to process what I felt, after I had to wrestle with God for my identity and trust. So Coach C is the bridge between who I was when I didn't have answers and who I'm now helping others find theirs. And what makes Coach C House different is this: I don't coach from theory. I don't teach from theory in our rooms. I teach from experience. I teach from process. And I teach from what I had to walk through and grow through. And because I know what it feels like to carry something heavy and don't know how to say it. I know what it feels like to perform strength while somebody inside you is still trying to heal. So when I sit with people in these rooms, I don't just rush them. I don't try to fix them too fast. I don't talk over their pain. I create space because I remember what it's like to feel not to have that space. So Coach C is all about truth, not watered down truth, not comfortable truth, but that kind of truth that's going to confront you, that kind of truth that's going to free you, that kind of truth that's going to call you higher. Because I believe this: you can't heal what you won't face, and you can't grow if you stay in performance. But at the same time, my rooms, they carry compassion. I don't rely on my own strength. I rely on the Holy Spirit, and I go and seek out experts in these domains, and I bring them into that space. And people like Marica is going to be speaking in that space today at 3 p.m. And I'm super excited because you can just see a little bit about what she showed today. You can imagine what she's going to impart in a room like that. And so that's what these rooms are for, because we both understand that the weight that people are carrying out here, the silent battles that people are facing, this unspoken grief that people are dealing with. And a lot of this stuff, the things people learn to live with instead of heal from. So when people encounter Coach C or one of his rooms, they're not just getting motivation, right? They're getting clarity. They're getting accountability. They're getting someone who's not afraid to sit in those hard places with them. And so at the core, the Coach C's house exists for one reason: to help people move from survival to transformation. Not just getting through life. I don't want you to just get through life. I'm tired of that. But actually becoming whole in the process. Because everything I am as Coach C was built from a place where I once needed someone like me. And now I'm that person for somebody else. Thank you for allowing me to share. This is Coach C, second son of Peggy.
I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Listen, I just thank you, the listeners, for taking the time to welcome Coach C, to welcome Con into the space for them to tell their story. I thank you for showing up, for giving yourself permission just to be here. Don't forget to send me your stories, to send me your songs at what'sgriefgottodowithit@gmail.com. Listen, continue to give yourselves permission to be vulnerable, permission to show up for you. This is not about me. This is not about us. This is really you giving yourself permission to show up for you. That's who you show up for. So remember always, I love you to life. Mean it. Bye.
Bye, everybody.